I'm Diana Watt, and I am here to recap the amazing race. We're leaving Turin, Italy, and going to Germany. So the first thing I want to talk about today's episode of The Amazing Race was that the editing sucked. It was so bad because you could not tell where people were at certain points in the race. It wasn't until 3/4 of the way through the show that you really got a good idea of who was in the middle of the pack and who was trailing. And there was one scene where it showed Brendan and Rachel getting on the train. Then it flashed to Vanessa and Ralph giving kind of a dirty look. And I thought Brendan and Rachel were on the same train as Vanessa and Ralph. Then they show in the next scene Brendan and Rachel being in the same pack as Neri and Jamie, Carrie and Stacy, Mark and Bopper. And so I'm thinking, what kind of editing was that? Because at first I thought they'd made it to the early train. So that's the kind of editing. It was all over the place. You couldn't really tell where people were, and it was very confusing. Now, the show starts with Art and JJ leaving like 4.5 hours before everybody else from the pit stop in Turin, Italy. But Dave and Rachel and the Guidos, Joey Fitness and Danny, managed to catch up to them even though they were on a later train because of the place not opening, the restaurant not opening until 8:45 in the morning. The other teams are all on a later train and kind of in a pack together. Now they get to the detour. The detour is Fairy Tale or Champion Mail. Now in the Fairy Tale, you had to follow a trail of breadcrumbs, pick them up, and then go make a gingerbread house. And then in Champion Mail, they had these men with beards, big heavy beards, who style their beards in all these weird funky ways, and you had to style their beard. The way they made it look was that the beard styling was way easier than the gingerbread house. That just, in my opinion, it seemed like the people were going in, getting it done, getting out of there. Whereas the gingerbread thing was outside, it was snowing, long trail, pick up your gingerbread, then go build a house, and it just seemed like they made it look harder. So Art and JJ don't get to the Champion Mail before the Guidos. The Guidos get there first and start working, but they're not as good at doing it. Art and JJ finish first, Dave and Rachel finish, and Vanessa and Ralph are very close to catching up to the Guidos, but then they finish. So the next part of the race is the roadblock, but Mark and Bopper had a speed bump that they had to get over before they could go on to the detour. So theirs was yodeling, and I don't think the threshold was all that high of what they had to pass. They yodeled with the guys. It didn't seem like they got the tune right at all, or the yodeling right, but it was just like, here, spend 20 minutes yodeling with us, and then you can go, and that's what happened. So they get right through their speed bump, and they catch up to Brendan and Rachel and Carrie and Stacy on the breadcrumb gingerbread trail, which was apparently the wrong one to choose. And so at the Champion Mail, the people who left were Art and JJ, and then Dave and Rachel, and then Danny and Joey Fitness, then Vanessa and Ralph, and then Neri and Jamie, and then the other side, which was the Fairy Tale, Carrie and Stacy left first because they were faster. Then Mark and Bopper and Brendan and Rachel were last. So at this point, you're like, ooh, this isn't looking good for certain people. And they go on to these castles. Now, it's Cinderella's castle, and I happen to know a little bit about these castles, and it was described to me by someone beforehand. And 3 of the teams, Dave and Rachel, Neri and Jamie, go into the Dave and Rachel, Neri and Jamie, go into the wrong castle. There's a big castle, then there's a smaller castle, and they're on opposite hills, and they go into the wrong castle and go into a sign up for a tour, wait for the tour, go through the tour, and then are like, oops, we're on the wrong castle. So then they hot dog it over to the right castle. Also, people going to the wrong castle were Carrie and Stacy and Mark and Bopper, but those guys got to the top and went, oh, this is the wrong castle, didn't go through the tour, went to the right castle. Now at this point, Brendan and Rachel are last, and, or at least it appears last by the editing, and they go to the right castle, and they get themselves past Carrie and Stacy and Mark and Bopper. Now, when it gets to the roadblock is a word I cannot pronounce, can't even say pronounce right, but it's a word I can't pronounce. Anyhow, what it is shuffleboard on ice with gnomes, and you slide the gnome and you have to get it in the bullseye. So Art and JJ do it with no problem, get to the pit stop, no problem, they're done. All right. So that's the last we have to hear about Art saying how great he is. That's the one thing you can count on from not Art, JJ saying how great he is. So then Danny and Joey Fitness finish it, and Dave and Rachel are behind now because of their screw up the castle. So they get to, but Dave and Rachel finish it. I think Neri and Jamie are there, and Dave and Rachel are there, and Dave and Rachel finish. Neri and Jamie, the FBI agents, you know, where they're showing them in the preview shooting and taking aim. Apparently they need target practice because they couldn't hit the bullseye for anything today. So the teams are there. Neri and Jamie are there pushing the gnome and missing the bullseye over and over, and teams are coming in left and right. So Rachel and Brendan show up. They get it. They pass Neri and Jamie. Now they're in fifth. They've come from the back of the pack up to fifth. Then Mark and Bopper come. They pass Neri and Jamie, and Carrie and Stacy pass them. So they've left the roadblock last. But Carrie and Stacy were fighting the entire show about their navigation and how to drive and where to drive and turning around and who's responsible. And that was the killer for them today because they got lost on the way to the pit stop. Neri and Jamie, who were in last because they couldn't hit the bullseye, FBI agents, maybe they really are teachers, they got there to the pit stop before Carrie and Stacy. So your order of finish is Art and JJ, who won another prize. I think it's Hawaii. Joey Fitness and Danny. Vanessa, who had an ugly moment today. She was just, oh, I'm not a fan. Sorry. She's just, Ralph's a nice guy. I don't get it. She's ugly when she's snotty. She's ugly when she's angry. I don't like the girl. Anyhow, they came in third. Dave and Rachel came in fourth. They didn't fight today. They worked great as a team. They came in fourth. Rachel and Brendan came in fifth. Mark and Bopper made it from last place, got through a speed bump, and still finished sixth. Neri and Jamie finished seventh. And Carrie and Stacy were eliminated, finishing last. And that is your amazing race. I think the editing sucked, but I hear that at the time lag, because in the next couple of episodes, the time lag from the first team to the last team goes to 19 hours. So they're having a hard time editing it so that all teams are in the show consistently throughout the show. But it was bad editing today, really bad. Anyhow, that's your Amazing Race recap. Tell me what you think of the teams, who you like, who you don't like, and who you think is going to progress further in the Amazing Race. I happen to love Mark and Bopper. I've been a fan of Brendan and Rachel's for 2 seasons of Big Brother, and I like Dave and Rachel, and I like Joey Fitness and Danny. They're very likable. Don't like Vanessa and Ralph. I like Art, don't like JJ. And Neri and Jamie, they're likable, but they're like wallpaper for me. So that's my Amazing Race recap. You have a great day.